What are some of the effects of screen time on infants and young kids?
Yeah, so when we're talking about, I really like acronyms. So when I talk about young kids, so under fives, I use the acronym SWAT for SWAT the screen time because those are the five big areas where I think we have, the best research in terms of some of the negative associations we see with screens. So S stands for sleep. Children who have high amounts of recreational screen time. This means, like for fun, for pleasure, that they go to bed later and that they have their total sleep duration is shorter. W is for weight, that there's associations in between recreational screen time and weight for kids. A for attention, which is one of the ones that I
Overweight,
find.
I
Yeah,
assume? Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. A for attention, which I think is really interesting, looking at the ways in which a 2, 3, 4 year old we think of as generally inattentive, and looking at the ways in which screen time affects their attention. We have experimental and longitudinal research that shows a negative effect of recreational screen time for young kids, and then their attentional abilities at age 7 when they're in school. The second A is for aggression. So kids are great at modeling. That's why your work in terms of helping us to be mindful, right? And to carefully choose our words is really important because they're watching what we're doing and they are watching what's on screen too. And they tend to attend to the content that is most overwhelming for them in a way, right? So if
Mm.
they watch a show and there's maybe some aggressive content. But the moral of the show is that, aggression is not good and we shouldn't hit or we shouldn't say unkind things. Kids tend to remember that we hit, right? Or that we say unkind things. And here I'm talking about little kids.
Mhm.
So when they just attend to that, it's like, you think about some of the psychological principles that make people bad eyewitnesses. Like if they see a gun, they only remember the gun, right? They don't
Mm.
remember the person's face. It's kind of the same thing with kids and aggression and content. There was a really interesting study of Clifford the Big Red Dog, where there was
Mm.
a dog with only 3 legs, and the whole, the kids were mean to him, and they excluded this dog. But in the end, it was like disabilities are okay and we should accept everybody and treat everybody equally, and like the kids who watched it that were too young, so they were 4 or 5, a little younger than the intended audience, they got the opposite message from the program,
Oh
which
god.
is so sad, right? Because
Oh, man.
they just attended to that time that was really salient for them when the kids were being mean, and so that, like, they couldn't connect to the beginning, middle, and end of the show when they were too little for the show. um and then the
They're almost like modeling, like, it's like the brain is, the most developed part of the brain when you're born, right, is your stress response system, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the only fully developed whole system in the brain. So, like, that part of the brain that's looking out for threats is fully developed and is like, "Oh, a threat," right? And so then that's the thing that's really sticking, sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
okay.
they're just not paying attention at the end when
Okay.
everybody's, like, calmly getting a message, right? They're, like, somewhere else, right?
Okay.
And then the T is for talking, so there's a connection in between screen time in young children and language acquisition. So a really interesting study that showed, for each 30-minute increase they had with a handheld device, like a parent's cell phone or an iPad, that toddlers, were 49% more likely to have a language delay.
Mm.
And so, kids learn talking through, there's been a lot of efforts to teach kids language through videos. Those companies have been sued and lost, and they just do not learn language through videos. And anything that says your kid is going to learn language by watching and engaging with a program, that's just not the case. They get it from human interaction.
Catch new episodes of the Mindful Mama podcast and other free resources, including the Mindful Mom Guide at mindfulmamamentor.com. You can listen to every back catalog episode, including interviews with Dr. Dan Siegel, Ianla Van Zant, Sharon Salzberg, and get meditations, join our private Facebook group, and more. Go to mindfulmamamentor.com now. I'll see you there.